All right, we got author Susie Welch with us for the Mike Ozanian and Money Guy, Dave Maney, on what this year is portending. Susie, very early on, one day does not a market make, but a sloppy one like this has folks going back to 1932. Should they?
No, it's scary right now. I mean, we're talking a lot about China, and what we're really seeing is, like, as the South China Morning Post said, it's the four horsemen of the apocalypse are here. You've got this incredible sustained slump in global commodity demand leading to this manufacturing contraction. You've got an insane oversupply of commercial and residential property, heavy business taxes, and widespread fear and uncertainty. And you've got then the Chinese economy very fragile, weak fundamentals, scaring the living daylights out of everybody. I don't think China will collapse. I think that the government won't let it. But I think that, you'd have to be very, irrationally exuberant to think things were going to be okay.
All right. I think people were prepared for the possibility that things could slow down. They weren't quite prepared for an opening day like this, Mike. But again, it's still early here. But what do you make of what our reaction has been to China and why we're surprised if China comes out with a weaker than expected factory report? Why should that jolt us?
I don't know why China should be surprised, Neil. I mean, after all, the past year, China has experienced a tremendous outflow of capital, tremendous outflow of money. So I think people, investors have seen the problems in China coming for quite some time. As it relates to the U.S., they're our third largest trading partner, so it's a problem there. Profits in the U.S. have been down last quarter when you look at the actual tax returns of all companies. And given the fact, as you just mentioned, interest rates are moving up, that is, those dictated by the Fed, the short-term rates, that spells trouble for U.S. equities as well. It's going to be a real stock picker's market because stocks in the U.S., as measured by prices relative to earnings, are very high right now, and they're not justified by profits.
Dave, when I'm sure your customers, your clients get a little nervous. They need a lot of hand-holding and they need a lot of guidance, and they don't like the way the year starts out. They just look back at a 2015. That was our first negative year for the Dow and the S&P since 2008. So they're already sort of pre-angst ridden, right? So what do you tell them?
I still think it is, in fact, a scary year going forward. You've got the two biggest economies on the planet, both governments trying to manipulate currencies into prosperity. And we're finding that the interest rate movements don't seem to make a lot of difference over here, and all the central planning in the world doesn't make a lot of difference over there. And so, you're at this point in the world where you have not only the kind of Mideast uncertainty and terrorism gut-level fear that people have, but now you have these economic statistics and happenings from around the world that are kind of meshing with it. This is the kind of environment in which governments like China start to get aggressive and throw sharp elbows, and that's not going to help anything either. So it's a scary landscape.
I don't know what it is, Susie, about the 8th year of a presidential term. But if you think about it, the 8th year in George Bush's term, everything, the wheels came off. And later on in the fall, we had the meltdown. The 8th year of Bill Clinton's presidency, we now know in retrospect, we had a recession. And it happened in March of that year, 2000, we had the internet bubble bursting. We just didn't see it quite clearly at the time. What is this 8th year going to tell us?
It sounds, Neil, like you've gone from sort of uber wonk to sort of, philosopher king here in a very short span of time.
It's the way I roll, Susie. It's the way I roll.
Yeah. I think that what we're seeing is the problem where fear begets more fear, and you enter into this vortex. It's a very negative cycle, and what do we see ahead is two things happening at the same time. On a macro level, we'll see these weak fundamentals spinning out, and governments trying to fix it. But then, what will save us? What will save us? What always saves us, which is ingenuity and entrepreneurship. And this is where China is going to have a lot of problems. That's where America has a lot of strength. We've still got people who wake up every morning morning and who don't look at the macro picture, who don't look at these numbers, who say, I want to create a great company, I want to engage my employees, I want to build something.
No, there is that. You're right. I mean, some of our most stellar companies, from Apple to Dell to Microsoft, were all started in the midst of pretty severe recessions. You're right about that. That could happen. But Mike,
and those managers weren't thinking about the recession. They were thinking about building something great.
No. You're right. But Mike, and the bigger, broader question is whether this portends at least a sloppy market. Sure winners last year, not so sure winners this year. Recovery that at 73, 74 months is already long in the tooth. That something's got to give.
Yeah, and all those examples you provided, Neil, there were also real economic reasons why we had problems, whether it was the overvaluation of tech stocks with Clinton and the crazy accounting of some of those companies that you well documented over the time. What we're having here is, the good news is the dollar is stabilized and gotten stronger, so we're having an influx of capital in this country. The problem is what's holding back some of the entrepreneurs, and the fact that real wages in this country are actually still down from 2008, is small businesses, which are really many of those entrepreneurs and family businesses, have gotten hammered by new taxes and regulation. We need that to get rolled back so we can get back to a real recovery.
Do you see a problematic year real quickly, Dave? I mean, 8th year, as I said, of a presidential term that tends to be problematic anyway?
It tends to be problematic, and this president likes to regulate, and this president believes in the power of central planning, which the China thing is showing doesn't work on an economy of the scale of the U.S. or China. You got some bad mojo going on, even over the power of American innovation and entrepreneurialism.
Bad mojo. Susie, he's your philosopher king. You got the wrong philosopher king.
Yeah.
All right, guys, thank you all very, very much. Happy New Year to all of them.